this out.
You just wait, because he's going to be just fine. I have Edelman in a couple leagues. I have Brady coming back in week 5 in a few leagues, and I'm hanging on. My whole idea is win 2, go 2-2, and when Brady gets back in both of those leagues, I have another guy who's coming back next week, and I want your opinion on this one, Joe. We had another question coming in.
Mm-hmm.
D'Angelo Williams has led Brian 2 of the last 3 weeks in scoring. Brian's one of our listeners from Kentucky. Thanks for listening, Brian. Edelman's led, pardon me, not Edelman. Dear Christ. D'Angelo Williams has led him 2 of the last 3 weeks, and now with Le'Veon Bell coming back, should I be concerned that D'Angelo Williams will be no longer to be found? That's worded funny. Will be no longer found in that offense. I think you have a legitimate concern. When Le'Veon Bell comes back, he will be the feature. But you're still not cutting D'Angelo Williams. You're not.
No, you're not, because of the fact that Le'Veon Bell when is the last time Le'Veon Bell has been through a 16-week season?
That's
he either gets hurt, he gets suspended, he does something stupid. I mean, hold out for that.
The agent of chaos himself is exactly right. Wow, you've already got a handcuff in D'Angelo Williams now that you've got Le'Veon Bell coming back. You handcuffed it in the draft to make sure you had both, or wherever you picked. I'm sure you drafted D'Angelo Williams. If you drafted Le'Veon Bell, you did it, and this is exactly what you did it for. Williams was your bridge until Le'Veon Bell comes back. I did it in a couple leagues as well. I'm glad I did it. I don't start both players until they show me that both of them are going to see 15 to 20 touches a game, and I don't think you're going to see that. I think Pittsburgh really does like the idea of one back with a little dose of the other here and there. Yeah, you hold on to D'Angelo Williams all day, all night. You just wait it out. And let's see if Le'Veon Bell's even got to get into his groove. It might take him a week or 2.
Well, yeah, you never know. I think he understands the offense. I think he's played with this offense. I don't think there's really anything to, it's not like, excuse me, it's not like he's starting with a new team or anything where he just get accustomed to the offense.
He's going to jump right back into it. But thanks for listening, Brian. We appreciate it. Another question. What do we expect out of the Texans' passing game?
Their passing game?
Out of the
Not
Titans.
much.
Yeah. Well, they've got Tennessee this week, so it's a little bit of an opportunity for some retribution. Tennessee looked decent against the pass last week. They shut Amari Cooper down, which I'll get into a whole other deal about Amari Cooper and why I think Michael Crabtree is the best receiver on that team. Just my own personal opinion, but it's a big statement. But Tennessee did well last week in shutting Coop down. Crabtree had a nice day and could have had a better one. Some things just didn't go his way. I still don't think that under any circumstance you're starting Brock Osweiler if that's the question that we're being asked. You have to start DeAndre Hopkins, but I don't think you have to start anybody else on that team.
No, I mean, I can't believe – no, Brock Osweiler, after that performance against the Patriots, I know against a very good defense in Foxborough, they're always tough, but no, Brock Osweiler should not be anybody's starting quarterback until
I don't
further
know
notice.
that he should be on a roster. I mean that sincerely. I don't think you have any reason to have Brock Osweiler on your roster unless you're holding 3 quarterbacks and you draft him shitty.
Well, that's debatable, and I kind of agree with you there, but I think we're all in agreement. I don't even think it's debatable. This man should not be starting under any circumstances right now for anybody.
Not in the fantasy lineup. No way.
Well, if he is your starting quarterback, well, I mean, next year, at least you know you're picking. At least you know you're picking first. So.
Yeah, you got that going for you. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't expect too much out of Osweiler or that entire passing game. Unfortunately, you do have to start, and I'm in that boat too. DeAndre Hopkins, I got to plug him in, and there's worse things in the world than that.
You got to think this kid can get off, because how much worse can Brock Osweiler really be than Brian Hoyer and T.J. Yates? And this kid had a hell of a year last year. You got to think this kid's so talented. He's got to get off at some point. I mean, if he cannot, you got to look at Brock Osweiler and say, "Wow."
No, you do.
That bad?
That's a solid point because T.J. Yates was piss poor. What's his name? Brian Hoyer in the playoffs. Brian Hoyer was just okay through the regular season.
He's always been just okay.
Terrible.
But Brock Osweiler's not being paid millions upon millions of dollars to just be okay.
I got you.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got to, after a while, you have to start wondering, like, this team isn't improving at all offensively. After a while, you had 5 quarterbacks. Ryan Mallett couldn't do it. Brian Hoyer couldn't do it. T.J. Yates couldn't do it. I don't know that any one of those 3 can do it anywhere. And Osweiler never really did it anywhere either. So it's not like you brought in a Drew Brees to see if he could do it, because you know your team's going to immediately improve with that addition.
Houston panicked. They panicked. They didn't want to get one in the. They didn't feel there was anybody worth it in the draft to trade up for. So, I don't know. I think the Philadelphia Eagles would beg to differ right now. But
there you go. So, all right, we'll get back to some fantasy stuff as I'm pulling up a few more questions. But let me ask you this: if you're the Cleveland Brown fans, you get it. You're used to it. You're used to getting thumped. You're used to taking one in the gut all the time. But seriously, you got to watch Carson Wentz go 3-0.
I can't even start bad mouthing Cleveland right now, because this gotta suck. I mean, you thought you made a good decision by waiting on a quarterback, maybe getting Cody Kessler in the 3rd round. Hugh Jackson seemed optimistic that he could resurrect RG3. He could make him work. And then, the guy you specifically passed up on, you weren't going to get Jared Goff, but the guy you specifically passed up on, look what he's doing.
Yeah. It's a bummer. It is. I can't help but think that the Los Angeles Rams are also kicking themselves in the ass. I know Jeff Fisher would love to see a Carson Wentz out there, because with that defense, and look, I'm not telling you that Carson Wentz is Tom Brady. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is Carson Wentz is very, very smooth.
I think somebody has to go. Carson Wentz looks very good, don't get me wrong, but I think Doug Peterson deserves a pat on the back too. I think
sure as hell does.
I think he has a way of working with these quarterbacks, and I think Carson Wentz is in a good situation.
Yeah,
with Doug Peterson.
Would agree. Here, I got the fantasy board back up, Joe, and I got another fantasy question here. This time about running backs. Who do I start in RB2? Flex is eaten up by a wide receiver. So, C.J. Anderson, Jay Ajayi, or Orleans in New York for the Giants. I don't know that you're doing that right. Especially if your choices include Jay Ajayi and anything.
Did I just hear C.J. Anderson along with Jay Ajayi, and who was the third one?
Darkwa Orleans. Was
that a misprint?
Might be.
Not to insult any of our listeners. Maybe I'm just going to be optimistic. Take a book chapter out of your book and be optimistic and say it was just a mistake. I mean,
it's not. Orleans Darkwa. It's the other way around. It's Orleans Darkwa, not Darkwa Orleans. But he will actually be filling in. Shane Vereen, shoulder injury for the Giants. He was replacing Rashad Jennings. Shane Vereen is now out, probably for a long period of time. In all likelihood, it looks like it could be the season. I haven't seen a final report on that yet. Shane Vereen out for the season, likely for the Giants, is what I'm seeing now. Rashad Jennings is still up in the air. He may be back soon. Orleans Darkwa, I think he got in the end zone last weekend, had some touches. There's a couple other options there in New York. Paul Perkins, Bobby Rainey. The only problem with any New York Giant running back or offensive player this week is that they play the Minnesota Vikings. So immediately, maybe your boy Orleans Darkwa is going to get an increased workload, but he may as well be a battering ram, because he's going to run up against a pretty damn good defensive line and some great linebackers in Minnesota. Boy, listen to me climbing all up their ass already.
Orleans Darkwa, man, that kid belongs to the WWE.
Orleans Darkwa. Yeah. Again,
okay,
you're not starting him. You're not starting Jay Ajayi. Hit your waiver wire. C.J. Anderson bounces back this week against
Jay Ajayi.
Jay Ajayi sucks. He found the end zone against the Browns last week, but
Okay.
Doesn't mean anything.
Let's just cut to the chase. Hey, buddy, appreciate you listening to the show. Here's some advice. Start C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, go ahead and plug CJ into your RB2 situation there. And I get the reason for the question too. CJ Anderson struggled recently against Cincinnati, but plug him back in. He'll rebound against Tampa on the road. I think in all likelihood you'll see Gary Kubiak rely on.
Yeah, I mean that's not really fair. Cincinnati Bengals have a good defense, and he was in Cincinnati. That was a tough matchup.
They'll come to Tampa and they'll line some things up to get him moving early. I think C.J. Anderson has probably a nice day. I don't know that you see Trevor Siemian throw 4 touchdowns again this week, but maybe you do. Tampa's defense looks a little lost and with a lot of ground.
I don't see why not. If you can torch the Cincinnati Bengals on the road, I don't know what's telling me you can't torch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road.
Yeah, that's another one. Here's another question: do I hold on to Ryan Matthews? Yeah, it's a good question.
That is a good one.
Yeah, thanks, Burger Time from Twitter. Okay, at BurgerTime799. I appreciate Burger. Do you hold on to Ryan Matthews? I don't know. I think the good news is with the Philadelphia Eagles is they're going on bye this week. So if you wanted to drop him, and now is the time to do it because nobody's going to pick him up this week, likely being on the bye week. I think that Wendell Smallwood, Darren Sproles, some other guys are going to get their looks. And apparently, like you just mentioned, the hats off to Doug Peterson. He's mixing the ball up. He's giving the ball to everybody. There doesn't seem to be like one constant there. He's really mixing it up.
I really like that. Is a good question. I don't really know how to answer it. I really wish he'd give me if he looked into it on who would you be thinking about picking up in exchange for Ryan Matthews.
Yeah, it didn't leave us any options for what's out there. In all likelihood, the obvious players aren't out there. You might have some waiver wire pickups in maybe Dwayne Washington from Detroit as a running back. I'm not afraid of DeAndre Washington in Oakland. It seems to me like he is getting a lot more of the workhorse type downs than Latavius Murray. This could be a tough week against Baltimore. I think that the Ravens' run defense is a lot better than it looks like. They've given up one big run this year against the Browns. Isaiah Crowell popped one for like 80-some yards. Other than that, Joe, I don't know that this team's given up 150 yards in rushing on the ground in Baltimore. So again,
that's one thing consistent with the Baltimore Ravens. They tend to be pretty stingy on the ground.
It looks like it to me. Some of the numbers that I put together: week 1, 65 yards, 145 in the second week, and 48 yards last week. So in 3 weeks, you take away the 85-yard run from Isaiah Crowell in week 2. That this team's averaging somewhere around 60 yards a game on the ground. That's impressive. Your guys like Christine Michael in all likelihood aren't out there unless you're in a league with me and you cut him in week 2. Disgusting. Sad but true, man. Sad but true. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, man. If you got a better option than Ryan Matthews this week due to the bye, then go ahead and just leave him on the bench. I think he'll probably come back and see the ball. The good thing about teams that tend to mix it up like that is players do stay fresh. You just never know from week to week who's going to see the looks. So that can be a little bit iffy. But, yeah, good luck. That's all the questions we have, I think. Let's check and see if anything else popped up. No, I am not single. It's too bad he's cute. Yeah, I got nothing else, man. I mean, we're just kicking around a little bit of last week and a little bit of what's to come for fantasy-wise. You got anything, Joe? Anything at all?
No, not really. I think we covered some good ground tonight. Just want to go back to my buddy. Trust C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, trust.
Dory, was it Nori?
I got it. Orleans Darkwa.
Orleans Darkwa. Okay.
Good news. C.J. Spiller signed with the Seahawks. You know what we actually can finish up with, Joe, is you brought this up earlier in our talk. J.J. Watt. What's it all mean, Beth?
Well, this is tough. This is really, really, really tough because I don't want to go out on a limb. It's early. Yeah, we don't know exactly what's wrong. I know he's going to probably miss this season. Hopefully he comes back. But anything with a back just makes you nervous. And J.J. Watt was probably the most dominating defensive player we've seen since Lawrence Taylor. And the fact that he has these nagging back injuries might put an end to an otherwise all-time great career pretty quickly.
Have you heard anywhere this it may end your career talk?
It just seems, I mean, I've heard it thrown around a little bit, but really looking into it, you're a defensive lineman and a football player. There are baseball players and basketball players whose sports aren't nearly as physical, whose career gets ruined because they have back issues.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a football player, a defensive lineman at that.
Yeah, second time, similar